Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Mile Game Guys Board Gaming Podcast. I'm your host, Adrian.
I'm Zach.
And I'm Jeff.
And we are coming to you this week with a review.
Not a featured review?
Not a featured review.
Sure?
No, that's the beauty of starting over, is that I can say the right thing. And not have
Now
this
people know we started
awkward
over.
rambling thing.
Yeah.
We lost 40 seconds of content.
Yeah.
I know.
Do you know how hard it is to replace that?
Well, considering we're at about 40 seconds, I think we've done just fine.
Yeah, it's very easy. That's you know how hard it is? It's very easy.
It's quite
to do.
easy.
Yeah.
Not hard at all.
It's
Not
a lot
hard.
easier than that 50 minutes we had to do once.
That sure is.
That was rough.
It's a rough
Just
day.
the soul-crushing feeling when
Yep.
50 minutes of audio goes away.
Mhm.
Anyway.
We've
we
learned to jab Control S.
Yeah. We are not here to discuss any of that. We are here to review a board game. And the board game we are going to review is The Estates, which is a 2018 release from designer Klaus Zock. Artists are Don van Paradon and Jesus van Paradon. Published by Capstone Games. It plays 2 to 5 players and takes 40 to 60 minutes. This is a new edition, reprint, updated thing of the 2007 game Neue Heimat from same designer. Yeah. Zach, do you have a rules breakdown for us?
Yes, I do. In the Estates, you are real estate developers trying to make the most money. Each round, you can embezzle $1 million, and you can also put up something to bid, such as blocks valued 1 to 6 that make up the buildings, roofs to cap off the buildings, barriers that can change the row length, and a doubler token. Each other player can bid once, and then you can either pay the highest to place it, or have them pay you so they can place it. Blocks of a lower value can be placed above higher valued blocks, and whoever's block is on top has ownership over the entire building. Once 2 rows of buildings are filled and roofed, the game ends. Completed rows give positive points, and unfinished rows give negative ones. Add that to any embezzled money you have, and then whoever has the most points wins.
Beautifully simple.
Just like the Sahara. Dry as a bone.
Save it for final thoughts, buddy. Let's go ahead and start off with initial thoughts, however. So I'm going to ask you guys to do this in 2 parts.
Okay.
I would like you to do
Before
it
and after Geefway?
exactly. Exactly.
Okay.
So basically, because I originally played this.
During the Kickstarter, right?
Yeah. So I knew about this originally from Heavy Cardboard's review of Neue Heimat, back when Heavy Cardboard reviewed games that were long out of print and hard to find heavy games. Then I did the live stream when it was on Kickstarter. So going into the live stream, I was really excited because I'd heard good things from their earlier review of Neue Heimat. This was after I had gotten familiar with Clay over at Capstone and like his process of bringing back heavy games that Heavy Cardboard covered that weren't available, and he had done a really good job with some of those. And so I was really looking forward to getting to play Estates. And then I played it on the live stream, and then later I borrowed Edward's copy of Neue Heimat to bring to Geekway to introduce you guys before the Kickstarter shipped and delivered. So if you could give a brief overview of what you thought before the Geekway play, which is probably fairly infamous amongst our listeners, and then maybe an updated one of what you were thinking going into the plays starting, in the last week or so when we were getting ready for the review.
Gotcha.
So, Zach, you want to start?
Yeah. So I'd seen that this was the first time you talked about it was as the Estates, and I had heard that it was going to be the second part of the their Simply Complex Live, which immediately was like, I don't know about that, just because Climbers was a huge miss for me.
Yes. I'd be curious how you'd feel about it when we play with the right rules.
Oh, right.
I have still never actually played with the correct rules, so.
Yeah. And so, but I had heard that it was, people described it as mean and vicious and an auction game. And I was vaguely pessimistic just mainly because it was coming in that same line as the Climbers, and just the little bit that I had seen of it made me feel like I was getting the same sort of the soulless vibe or whatever that I say the Climbers has. So I was vaguely pessimistic, but I still was, wanted to try it.
Okay. And then, as longtime listeners know,
Yeah.
the Geekway play was a disaster.
Yes.
But before we go any further, Jeff, what were your
Okay.
thoughts going into it before Geekway?
I know you had raved about the game over and over and over, that it was a cool auction game, and I think we had played like Ponzi Scheme and stuff like that beforehand, so I sort of
Which
understood.
I've heavily compared it to.
Yes. And I was just thinking, it's like, okay, it's sort of kind of a weird area control version of an auction game like that, and I'll give it a shot and drink beer at the same time.
but get some hot chicken beforehand.
Yeah.
A lot of hot chicken.
Yeah, so we Jake from Draft Mechanic had planned a get-together Urban Chestnut at Geekway to play some games. And we were like, well, if we're driving all the way to Urban Chestnut, we might as well go a little bit out of the way and get some Southern, which, loved hot fried chicken here on the show. We got a bunch of hot fried chicken. Hyped. Lives up to the hype.
Absolutely.
Ate a bunch of hot fried chicken. Then drove about 30 minutes. Got to a brewery, got beers, talked to some people, and then sat down to play Neue Heimat.
Yeah.
It was easily the dullest game I have ever played of Neue Heimat / The Estates.
And this was Edward's copy?
It was Edward Copy,
Yeah.
which was the old edition that was like in a red, like shoebox style box.
Yeah.
Is there like a zip bag or something?
No, they were
No.
just like old canvas sacks.
Okay.
For the various pieces. The old Neue Heimat board is lacking in the most basic things you could call art.
Just shades of color.
Yeah. So there a lot not great going on there. And I was devastated because I was like, well, that kills it. Like because it was the three of us and Paul, and I thought that
You thought it would be a hit for us.
Yeah, I thought the auctioning was similar enough to Ponzi and some other auction games we've played, like the just kind of like you're in or you're out, like not quite like Ponzi does. Ponzi's is really good. But I really thought that like the being able to like steal buildings or like stick somebody else on your building so that you're out from under control of it. I thought that kind of like back and forth, like screwing each other and cutting each other out.
And Paul and I have been known, and Jeff have all been known to be mean in games.
And so I thought that would be a big hit. And then like the whole game, it was like every time somebody put something up, everyone else was like, I don't know why I'd bid on that. Pass. And it's like
a lot of just like
I was the only person who was like, I guess I'll bid. And then even the person who put it up was like, I don't see a reason to, so sure, I'll take it. And so then I was out of money, and everybody else was still like, pass. And it was just like, oh my God, what the fuck is happening? Really bad. So I got my copy, like, that was fairly shortly after the Kickstarter wrapped up. I got my copy, and I didn't even try to bring it out for a while. Like, I people on the fans have talked about like, oh, you guys, that was clearly a bad play. You got to let it go. We all admitted that eating a belly full of hot fried chicken was probably a contributing factor. The con and being tired and like the dry, all of that played into it. But I had left it to the side for a long time. I wanted to give time for all of the bad vibes to really just fade into the background and then bring it back, which I did. So what were your thoughts going into the last few weeks' plays?
It had to be better than the little game we played. And I think I was one of the ones that was definitely like, trying to almost coach you to be like, Adrian, do you want to do the estates? Like, I know that all of us agreed that it was a bad play, and I do want to give it another shot.
Yeah, a fair shot. I think you said multiple times.
Yes.
Like you want to give a game a fair shot.
Yes.
Jeff, what about you? How'd you feel?
Yeah, it was just, play it again. That's basically all it was. Just prepping myself, get some moisturizer.
Yeah.
I was excited about new components as well.
Yeah.
So for me, going into the most recent plays, I was excited to start playing it again.
Yeah, I was going to say, one thing that did make me want to do that was because I kept hearing from all these other people, and you playing with a whole bunch of other people, and I was just like, Adrian, did it work out this time? And you're like, yes. Did it work out this time? Yes, it did.
Yeah, because it worked out like later that same Geekway. Like I had another one of the best plays I've ever had of it with some other people there, and then coming back around to this, like I finally started bringing my copy to game night, and like I had it in my bag for a couple weeks, and it didn't get played. And then a couple weeks ago at Strange, I got the chance to play with V, Bullseye, Mike Jones, and Kaiser in a 5-player game, and that felt like it was going really well.
And 3 out of the 5 people liked it then.
Yeah, well, we'll come back
Yeah.
around to that. But and that was a nice like recharge for me too. Like, okay, I really haven't played it in a while. I understand it. I think I could teach it again, so there's not like an awkwardly sloggy rules teach that might bog it down. Like, I want to get the rules back out there quick, a refresher back out there quick, and get back into it and really give it a fair shake. And so we did. But that wraps up initial thoughts. That was a little bit longer one because of the backstory of this game.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and move over to some components. Components for this game, massively upgraded.
From Neuheim, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, within reason, like the wood cubes are still wood cubes, but now they're like really nicely colored. They're screen printed. Because
they're mostly nicely colored. The white on yellow and white on gray. I think they probably could have done. I think black or something like that. I just think.
So
yeah.
Neuheim had a different way to do it. They had like die facings.
Yeah.
So it was like 6, 5, 2, etc. But the white buildings had black dots. The blue had white dots.
Yeah. Okay.
And they were only on like one
top
set
side.
of opposite
okay.
sides. So it was on top or bottom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
It was basically everything was white dots except for yellow and white, which were black dots.
So the fact that they didn't do that here is, I mean, I get that there was more to color that way, but I think that sort of hurt it a little bit. And it doesn't look as like really in the picture. It looks fine, but it's like in
Pre-production.
glare. Yeah.
If you're in any kind of a situation where you're at the end of a table and like there's a light source like past the game, it catches a glare and the numbers get hard to see.
Yes.
Like I ran into that even both at one of the game nights we played it and playing it here at my house, like the way I have my light set up in the dining room was really washing out the yellow especially.
Yes.
Grays, not as bad, although I think maybe if they'd stuck with a white block and went with black on the yellow and kept it as a white block.
Yeah.
That would have worked. Otherwise, the other components,
I mean, I like that the different screen print are different for each color. That's good.
Yeah, which I was going to say the screen printing to talk about a little bit later. It's one of the things that I really appreciate that Clay did with this one. When it was going through Kickstarter, it wasn't one that like blew it out of the water, crazy funding. It was a little bit of like, there was a brief period of time where I was a little nervous it wouldn't fund.
Yeah, I remember.
And then it funded and it started knocking down a couple stretch goals and it got really close to the final stretch goal, which was that screen printing. And it didn't quite make it. And the campaign ended. And then I think it was like a day, maybe 2 later, Clay made a post, an update where he was like, you know, I'm going to go ahead and do it. Like, I think it's the right thing to do. I think it's going to improve the quality of the game and be worth it. I'm going to go ahead and spend the extra money on my end to screen print all of the cubes. And I agree, Zach. I think it's a fantastic decision to have the different patterns on all of the different cubes screen printed on there.
Yeah.
I also really like another area where significant upgrade over Neuheim is the permit tiles. Are pieces which are the like adjust the rows one.
Oh, like the barriers and stuff
so they're like a nice little like construction barrier with a very clear mark 1, 2, or 3.
Yeah.
In the estates in Neuheim, they were like wood blocks with a notch, 2 notches, or 3 notches cut into them, which was way less aesthetically pleasing and even a little bit less functional, like because it was easy sometimes to be like, wait, how many is that cube? Like it wasn't clear what even the notches meant on them.
Right.
The cancel cube and the
doubler hat.
Yeah, those weren't massive
Excuse me.
upgrades.
The
mayor's
mayor's
hat.
estate
Yes.
that will be built in that row.
Yeah.
Yes. Those weren't like ridiculous upgrades. Like the cancel cube is now, instead of a cube, it's like a little cancel tile with a clear X on it, whereas before it was just a cube with an X on it. And a mayor's estate indicator. It was a pawn, like a little cylinder with like a little ball laid on top.
Gotcha.
Real simple.
And the roofs look better too, I think.
I'm torn. I kind of liked the red half sphere.
The
domes for the roofs. I do think that these ones are actually easier to see because
it was red with black text, right? Where this is black with white text.
And then because they were spheres, like if it was, like it puts things at sometimes a little the way the numbers curved across the sphere. Whereas now they're just on a little like roof flat top that shows the numbers very clearly.
But then it was a circle, the dome on top of squares, which looked
a little off.
Where this one, it fits with the scheme. So
yeah,
I would say more aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah, I could totally see that. Speaking of aesthetically pleasing, they massively upgraded the art on the board. There's actually what could be called art. It might not still apply to everyone.
Yeah.
Or appeal to everyone, I mean.
It looks fine
Yeah.
on the thing. We had one complaint on the sand spots where you can only put one block. You could ask for a little bit more on the sides to help.
Yeah, once a block's on there, it's hard to see, which that's one of the few areas where I think the graphic design was better on Neue Heimat because it was a white picket fence, which also fit better with the idea that this is like a house with a picket fence and not a high-rise.
Right.
And so it made it a little bit easier to explain to people that, like, this one will only ever be 1 cube tall.
Yeah. It's sandy, so you can't build too tall, Yeah. I like the business cards that indicate which color or, which company they are, especially because they're double-sided and they have a pattern on the back, which looks nice.
Again, another major upgrade, which is probably an upgrade that actually saved component costs because in the old ones, they were just the color die that matched the cubes with just no numbers on it.
Oh.
So it was just a white, yellow, green, blue, red,
Yeah.
purple die.
No, I think that's a lot. The business cards are a lot better.
Yeah.
It fits with the theme.
Mm-hmm.
And the money, which is a bunch of $1 million checks, mostly good. I mean, it looks good on the front, but the fact that there isn't anything on the back, at least like either just the back side of a check, just because like I've seen money that's just only one side and it always feels like really
a little off,
or two, and I think it would have been just from like an actual plane wise, because you flip the cards over to embezzle them if it had some sort of like embezzling thing on it, or something just to indicate this is now embezzled money versus something, so.
Yeah, although I've seen enough times where like people have mentioned that like everybody just keeps their money stacks face down for some reason anyway, which I've seen people do.
Yeah.
So if it was like an embezzle, you'd kind of lose that effect.
Yeah.
But I do agree. I wish there was something on the back. So much other effort went into components in other places.
Yeah.
That does feel a little bit like a miss that they're not even like the back of a check or something.
Yeah.
I like that they opened it up like it was a pledge tier to where you could put your name on the check or you could put your signature. So there were like 2 different tier levels that were all the same cost.
Mm-hmm.
They were both, but you could so every signature is somebody at one tier and then every name is somebody at another tier.
Yeah.
Which is just nice because it's fun to go through and see names I recognize.
Yes.
And be like, yeah, I know that person. Like,
that was a $100 pledge level, by the way.
Yeah. I wanted to do it because I really wanted to do like pay to the order of Mile High Game Guys.
That would have been cool.
But I didn't have $100 at the time. Couldn't quite justify it.
I would have thrown you $5 towards that.
Yeah, that I don't know if that would have gotten
I'm not
me
sure
there.
we would have been able to put Mile High Game Guys on there, but our names would probably be able to go on
I mean, no,
There's
Did
good
they have-
companies on there.
there. Did they have companies?
somebody else put something similar to a company.
Okay.
And I'm sure Clay would, like, I know Clay. I could have messaged him and been like, hey, dude, could you do this? This would be great.
And he just
It's
goes,
free promotion.
and he just goes, fuck you.
Fuck.
Well, in that
You.
case, I go Adrian and Zeph.
Okay.
There we go.
Zaf.
Adrian, Jeff, and Zaf.
Zaf. Yeah.
Yeah.
Zaf. That's basically it for components.
Did we talk about the drawbacks?
Comes with 2 cloth.
Yeah.
I was just literally going to say comes with 2 cloth draw bags, both screen printed with the estates on them. They're improvements over the generic canvas bags from Neue Heimat. The box has a sleeve.
Kickstarter exclusive sleeve, I believe.
Well, there we go.
Yeah.
I don't really feel it's necessary.
I mean,
to be
it's-
honest,
it's-
things like that never really are.
Yeah. I mean, you don't have to use it.
True.
So.
But then what am I going to do with it? Throw it away? No, I don't throw shit away. I'm a
No.
hoarder.
Yeah, I've seen your house. Newspapers everywhere.
Stacks. One of these days, just you're going to come to record, and I'm going to be dead under a stack of newspapers.
Does this spark joy in you?
That's components. That is literally all the components, and we've probably talked about what little components there are there more than was necessary.
Look, you said this was going to be a 3-hour podcast, so
I did. I said I was going to drag this out as much as possible. So let's get over to some rules and rules explanation then. Rules are dead simple. Basically,
I will say that there was something that I like from our first play that I had, for whatever reason, I had thought that was completely wrong, which I think sparked, because when I asked Paul about it, he was like, I thought it was that too, and I think
he did.
yeah.
I didn't know that because
Yeah.
I thought he would have mentioned that the other night.
Well, he did. He was just like, oh, it's not that because it's the towers, how much they're worth, we always thought that it was, and it's now worth 1. Like if you put the 1 on there, it's like, oh, now this is mine, but it's only worth 1 point. And that was always just like, well, why do I care about that then? So,
Yeah.
And it's the whole value of all cubes underneath.
Yeah. When you told me that, I was like, oh, that's a lot different.
That's what I care about. Because before, like, if you thought it was just the value on top, then it's like, well, it's not necessarily better for me to go a 1 on top of a 6.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I deny them 6, but I only get 1.
Yeah.
That's not worth it. Or like putting somebody's on top of theirs. Like, why would I get rid of my 6 to give them 1?
Yeah.
So that makes a little bit more sense why some of that first play kind of fell flat. I have also seen a couple people struggle, and again, I think some of this is the graphical design missing that. Like, just it seems like it's a constant reminder. Like, no, you can't actually build on that one.
For the sand spots.
For the like, yeah, ranch spots or whatever they call
yeah.
them. Also, just somebody, because I like to mention when somebody has a rule confusion that affects things, I like to mention them. You can only ever place on top of any cube that's currently out there if the cube you're placing is less than the number showing on the top cube, or you can place at the next open spot at the end of the 3 rows.
Yeah.
It's not that you can place anywhere adjacent to another cube, because somebody did that. Like, one row was out to 4, the other row was out 1, and they tried to place like by the 3rd one. And it's like basically it would have been 1, a gap, and then 1, thinking that it just had to be adjacent to another cube.
Yep.
That's not the way it works.
Nope.
Sometimes you don't feel like you need to spell things out, and then you do.
I forget, like, did they actually look like did it actually look like rows or just more of a grid? Because I could sort of understand that confusion a little bit. Because if it, like, on the board, if it doesn't look like it's actually, like, here is a unique row, here is a unique row, here is a unique row. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, they don't. The biggest thing that indicates the rows is like at the start of each row where the top hat can go, and like just explaining that, like, the top hat makes this row finish, and like, you know, you can build it at the first open spot in each row. Like, there's nothing that clearly delineates.
Yeah, I would just say
but
make sure you tell people that it's rows, and it's all based off rows.
I don't imagine that's going to be a very common mistake. I think it's going to be a unique one-off. But
well, you clearly didn't read the story theme behind the game.
I should have especially trying to bring the estates back home. I should have given you the full theme. That's my bad. The rules add theme.
There is actually theme.
No, I know. I've read it.
Did you?
Yeah, I read it.
They see they're only supposed to be building 2 rows, and then we're like, fuck it.
They're greedy developers, and they can't go beyond the river, but they're like, fuck it, I want to make money, so we'll go beyond it.
So you bribe people to get the permits.
Yeah.
Yes.
Those are actually the permit indicators.
And then it's the city council marker that negates something.
Yep. And then the mayor's house or estate is going to go, so it'll be worth more. But then there's an ultimatum that once 2 are finished, then the other one's just going to get destroyed, and you'd lose a whole bunch of money.
It's going to knock the whole other row down.
Yeah.
It's a race.
Yep.
Yeah. But that's better than anything Neue Heimat had.
I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is.
So, but yeah, the rules overall are really straightforward. Just continuing to remind people that it's less than, not less than or equal to for placing on top of another block. And then that it's not as soon as a row gets all of the spaces with a cube, they all need to be finished buildings, which means cube with a roof on top.
Yes.
That's another one that sometimes people like they place that 4th one or like, huzzah, that row's complete, I'm safe. And it's like, no. None of those 4 have roofs on them. There's still a long way to go.
And that if it's completed at the moment, that's fine. But if someone adds the permit that extends it, then it's no longer finished.
Yep. That's where this game gets mean.
And you also, if you put the 2 down, the 2 permit, and you want to cancel it, but someone adds another cube into one of those 2 spots, you can't then cancel that thing because it can't go back too, because there's stuff there. So that's something else you need to make sure you know too.
Or if there's multiple permits in the same row, you cancel the last one that was played, not whichever one that you want.
Is that true?
I thought that's how I was explaining.
I think that was a thing in Neue Heimat.
Oh, okay.
They changed in estates because it gets hard to keep and
hard,
this was one of the benefits of the old cubes in Neue Heimat is you could just whatever one was most recent you put on top, but then you still had to vaguely remember like, wait, did that 2 move it plus or minus?
I mean, usually it's easy enough to figure out just because of where it is.
Usually.
I mean, if there's a 2 and a 3 on there and it's only extended 1, you know that the 3 brought it up, and then the 2 brought. I mean, it's just math. I know that's hard for you, but
Not that hard for me. Jesus Christ. The other thing, rules, last thing I'll really touch on here before we move on to gameplay, and because this is a kind of a good segue to gameplay, be clear whether you are planning on playing it a series or a single one-off. So normally, once the 2 rows are complete, or once all the roofs are out, you end the game, you total up positive and negative, whoever has the most wins. They recommend in the rules to play it as part of a series, and if you play it as a series, everything resets at that point, except for money. So all of your embezzled money and all of your cash in hand comes back to you, cash in hand. You reset the cubes, you reset the roofs, you reset...
you draw whole new cubes.
Yeah. And then,
Reset the game.
You reset everything except money, and then you play the next round with money.
And that means
where it is.
Yeah, and that means like you don't even keep those companies either. It's
everything clears. And you play that next round, and then at the end of that, you total everything up for that round, see who's the winner. If somebody at that point has won 2 games, they are just the winner. Otherwise, you add the 2 scores together and then potentially play another one. But you should agree on when the end point is, because that can affect how people will spend their money. So that's just a little, like, if you're playing with that recommended variant from the publisher, let people know ahead of time so they can plan accordingly with how they're going to spend their dough.
Just make sure people know then that if you're doing a 3-1, it is now 120 minutes instead of 40 minutes. So
yeah, significantly longer.
Yes. So you're like, hey, we're just going to play this 40-minute game, but we're doing a 3 series. So
which is where I usually like to be, I like to let people know, we'll play this tentatively as 1 round, and then we'll check in, I'll try to judge roughly when the midpoint of the game is and be like, how's everybody feeling? Would you like to play 2? Or vice versa, be like, we'll play 2. We're going to agree to play 2, but we'll judge at midpoint if people are really hating it and just want to be done, or, it's taking long for whatever reason. We can just end. We can agree to end, but that way there's enough time between when you make that decision of if you're going to do that next round or not to make that decision. So, yeah. That's it for rules and rules explanation. Let's get over to some gameplay. Talk about some gameplay. So, Zach, how do you feel when people describe this game as vicious?
I don't know.
How do you feel when anybody describes any game as vicious these days?
Vicious and thinky. There are a lot of... Somebody said something that had a lot of keywords that I was just like, I don't like that word, I don't like that word, and I don't like that word. Not from just as words, I don't like them for whatever reason. I mean, it is a mean game, which we especially... No, I'm not going to say figured out, but we saw.
It happened.
Yes. Which I knew everybody kept saying it was, so I was like, I know you can do it, and then once again, figuring out that rule thing that we got wrong or that we misinterpreted made that much clearer, that you can really fuck over people, especially that there's even a quote unquote role in that you don't take a company and then your only job is to fuck everybody up.
Yes. Yeah. So as you're playing this game, basically, from a gameplay perspective, it's basically a pure auction game. I was it actually made sense, Jeff. You mentioned something about it being an area control auction game, and that's actually totally appropriate. And it killed me a little inside to hear you say that, because
he's like, but he's not supposed to like area control games.
Like area control, it's horse shit.
Yeah.
Sometimes you area control so well in the first round, you don't even have to bother doing it in the second round.
You're not wrong. That's because your 60 points were safe.
Yeah, I think I'm safe. As long as I don't let you get me negative points, because everyone's just going to bid that.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to place your cubes for you, Jeff, just so you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I still can't. We had a chance at getting him in. He even bid 1 on something, and then you bid 2. Somebody,
I fucked it up.
You fucked it up.
I think it was pretty early.
Yeah.
And it was something there was only 3 cubes of.
But that was our only chance.
But I didn't trust the hander to not be like, I'm just going to buy it for 1.
I know. Yeah.
So
that's very specific of a game.
Yes.
Yeah.
No.
Example.
Yeah.
But.
No, but it is an My problem is, like, I don't even like calling it an auction game just because I feel like it's just like, I don't know. For me,
A bidding
bidding game.
So
Because
BGG lists auction
Yes.
/ bidding as
No.
one.
Yeah, I get
and
that.
I think that's
But, yeah.
a better way to. It is a bidding game
because you can only put in one bid and it goes in sequential order from, so, if Jeff put the thing up to bid, I would go first. I would say a bid, and then Adrian can raise it or pass if he wants.
Yeah.
But then if you decide to raise it, I am now out of the bidding. So I have to bid as much as I feel comfortable doing, which
Yeah.
can be hard to gauge because sometimes you will be like, I want this to go up higher. I don't want them to get it for cheap, but I don't want this. So you have to do just enough to be like, have someone go over you, but not too high that people are like, man, fuck that. And then
Yeah.
they're like, oh no, because
Oh no.
like Ponzi scheme, once you've put out a bid,
You're on the hook. For
you're
it.
on the hook if the auctioneer, no, I don't know, the person that put it up for bid,
I'd say the auctioneer. That's
Okay.
a fair term for it.
if they decide to take your money,
The active player.
active player, yeah, we'll do that. They're like, yeah, all right. And Adrian had that happen to him many times.
It happened to me like 2 or 3 times in our most recent play. And this is the one where, like, aside from the dull, lifeless play at Geekway, this was one of the most frustrating plays I've had of this game because it really started to feel like people were just intentionally like,
I'm gonna tell you this is that, especially in a lot of games like this, if we just sort of leave you to your, like, if we leave you in the middle of the pack, you have a tendency to like climb out near the end and get it. And so it's like, well, we just gotta keep
cut
keep
his
them
legs
down
out.
real quick.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it didn't
What,
help.
what do you got left out there that first round? Is it $2? $1? Good luck. Good luck until it
And-
comes back around to you.
Yes.
Yep. So it got real.
Well,
real
because
cutthroat
you
there.
had $4 and you put out a bid for $4 and Leander passed and Jeff passed. And I was just like, I looked at you for a second. I looked at your money and I'm like, okay, I'll take that money. And you're just like, oh, shit.
Well, now because that was there were multiple times where
Yeah.
I misread. Like I thought Leander for sure wanted control of
yeah.
it. I thought Jeff might, probably not. But then I thought that I thought Leander or Jeff would go over. I
Mhm.
figured you'd take my money if
Yeah.
it came around to. I just didn't think it'd come back around to that.
Exactly.
And it did.
Yeah.
And it happened so many times.
Mhm.
And then we got to a point where like you and Jeff were both heavily invested in the same row, which was doubled.
Yeah.
The
And
veto
we-
cube was gone.
And we had a bunch of
and
money.
you had all of the money. And so it was like
We're finishing this row.
Yeah, we're finishing this row.
like Zach and Jeff have clearly formed a megacorp
Mhm.
by merging their two companies together.
Yep.
Leander and I aren't even playing on the same planet right now. And even if we were, we don't have money. So
Yeah.
we can't do anything.
And so, and then the problem with that is that if you put something up to bid and you don't have enough money to match whatever the bid is, you have to take their money.
Yeah.
And so with you and Leander having little money, Jeff and I were able to get shit for cheap. It's like, I remember you had like zero money and I was like, all right, I'll buy it for $1. Here you go. And then you're just like, what the fuck am I supposed to do with this?
Yeah, because you get trapped because it's like,
Yeah.
well, I need money, so I want something that people are going to bid on.
Yep.
Because if you pick something that nobody wants,
Yeah.
everybody's just going to be like, pass, 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 pass. You get it for free, you get no money, and you get to play something shitty.
Yeah.
But like in my case, where you guys were very clearly, your interests were aligned,
Mm-hmm.
so you weren't really outbidding each other. You weren't getting into bidding wars between each other.
Yeah.
Leander also had no money, so when it was my turn, it was like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And the only thing you can really do in that point is maybe like auction out a cube of one of those corporations that those like big megacorps have to hopefully see where it can go. But
Yeah, but then also if because you draw 2/3 of the cubes, there can be a thing where it's like, I want, you want to stop Jeff, but the corporation he had, there aren't any cubes left, or there aren't any low enough cubes still out to cover something of his
Yeah.
claim a building.
to claim a building.
Yeah, like I can't take his mega tower there
Yeah.
in the double row. Like he's just clearly going to get a roof whenever he feels like
Yeah,
it.
it's 3 high with a 1 on top. That's
Yeah.
mine. So
Yes.
Yeah, or a 3 high. Like I think in that case it was like a 3 high with the 2, and there were just no more 1s in the game.
Yep.
And it was like, congrats, Jeff.
Yep.
That thing's going to score you 40 fucking points when you
Yep.
put a roof on it
Mhm.
because that's the last building without a roof in
Yep.
that row.
Pretty sure I dumped all my money on the last round to cap that off. Too.
Yes, you
Yes,
did.
you did.
Yep.
Because at that point, I was in burn
Yep.
it all to the ground. I was really trying to make sure that only like the one row that wasn't doubled, that I had like 4 points in, was the only row that scored.
Mm-hmm.
And instead it wasn't. And I ended up with like negative 14.
Yeah.
That first round, that was a multi-round game, but the first round ended with Jeff at 60.
Which the
Zach-
high score you've seen?
No.
No, after one round.
I don't know. I'd have to go back. I haven't kept score, but I feel like no. I've seen some pretty high scores.
Okay.
Then it was like Zach with like 33, Leander with like 23, and then me with like negative 14.
Yeah.
So it was clearly like it was a first, a middle, and then a last.
Mm-hmm.
And then we started the next round with like pulled out the cash. And it was like Zach and Leander with all the cash, and me and Jeff with like $8 each. And Jeff was like, "You have as much money as I do." And I was like,
Yeah, but there was a 74-point difference.
"Yeah, but I'm really fucked here." Which is usually not like in the live stream I did, which was my first play that I love so much on Heavy Cardboard. Clay had gotten into a position where he was way low on money, but he scored a decent amount of points. And then in the second round, he kind of did what Jeff did and he wrote it out. Whereas me in the first round, I'd done okay in points, but I had a huge stack of money, but then I wasn't able to use that money to gain enough in the second round. So Clay ended up beating me, and I think that was another one of the games on this live stream so that I lost by like 4 points. It was infuriating, especially because I'd mocked Clay endlessly about his really short, thin stack of money. I still call a thin stack of money in that game a Clay stack. I had a Clay stack for basically
Yeah, you did.
most of our last play.
I'm not sure we've mentioned, but money is not open how much money you have is not open for
Exact
information.
numbers aren't open information.
But the thickness of your stack is
the
open information.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
you can kind of guess, like, that looks like that's like somewhere between 3 and 5.
Yep.
Like, and there were times that has been misjudged. I misjudged that in the last round of our last game, where I was trying to drag it out just a little bit, and
yeah.
I bid something like
You bid 3.
I thought Leander would be able to outbid Jeff,
Uh-huh.
and he wasn't able to, and so Jeff got the last piece to cap it and just end it, which kept me from like. If I'd been able to draw it out one more, I think I might have been able to crest back into like
Positives.
1 point
Yeah.
instead of negative 4.
Yeah.
And it's just trying to.
At our Zuni Street game, though,
Yeah.
we
So
played five.
Well, I was going to say, just that was a multi-round game, but we also did
Other-
single-round games.
Yes.
Like at Zuni.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which we did 5-player,
Mm-hmm.
and then we have distinctly learned don't take more than 2 in two corporations in a 5-player game.
Yes. No. Okay. So that one was at.
That was at the
Epic.
Oh,
game
that's
night.
right. That was the day before.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we had one person that grabbed 3. It was their first time playing, and I was like, "Oh, that's gonna be bad for you," just because.
So much of this game is just being like, oh, you've got 3 corporations. I make sure that none of those do anything.
Yeah.
Well, and the biggest problem in a 5-player game is once one person gets 3, it means that someone else
Has to
won't
go negative.
have
Yep.
a corporation, which means their only chance of gaining positive is to embezzle
Yep.
almost every turn and then do everything they can to make sure no rows score.
Yeah. So when I said in the rules, that the game ends when 2 rows have scored or completed, that's how it normally ends. But there's only 12 roofs, and if all 12 come out and no rows have been completed, or only one's been completed,
Once all 12 come
Yeah.
out, you end and score
Yes.
there.
And
It could be all negative.
it could be all negative. Yes.
and one row might be double negative.
Yeah. Yep.
Which was basically where it almost I don't remember in that D-Bolt game or that Epic game, did all 3 go negative?
Yes.
So then it came down to
No,
just
not 3. Not 3.
one scored positive.
One
Yeah.
scored positive, 2 went negative.
Yeah, but it was like really
You were the one that had.
I ended up with none, and it wasn't intentional. Like somebody asked me after the game, like, did you intentionally try to like not get anything and tank the game? I was like, no. I legitimately was bidding like 6 or 7, thinking I'd win colors
The guy who got 3 outbid you every time. for
almost
the-
every single time. And so it wasn't until the last company got bought that I was like, all right, fuck it, I'm crashing it. And
I remember on that one, everything but gray had been bought, and I was like, all right, let's see if Adrian's in this game or not. And I placed it, you bid, and he outbid you, and I was like,
Yeah.
all right, well, you're fucked, man.
Yeah, because I was sitting just to your left, so I was the first bid, and my opening bid was like a 6 or a 7, which is a pretty high bid.
And then he went to 8, and I was like, "Fucking hell!"
Jeez.
Yeah, I'll take that 8.
Yeah.
I'm not getting another company with this motherfucker.
yeah. And then it ended up that one I almost pulled it off because I ended up. And if we'd played another round, I would have been really good because I had a bunch of money. And I ended with 6 embezzled.
But obviously, we would have played a different one if...
Probably would have played a little bit different strategy towards the end. And then Lance, who was also playing with us, who only had 1, between his embezzled funds and then the balance between the 1 that scored and his negative, he was able to eke out a 7. Just one point ahead of me.
I think I got 3rd in that one.
Yes.
Yeah,
Also,
I got
right.
4th.
Yeah.
Because-
Also, the most negatives happened, like negative 50 plus.
Oh,
I
yeah,
think.
the 3 corp guy was hosed.
No, my goal was to make that crash.
Yeah.
It's because my only way of getting points got taken over by somebody else. And I was like, well, I'm now out of this game, and there's nothing I can do about that except just try and trash everybody.
Yeah.
And to be like, all right, Adrian, you sort of have someone on your side.
That's something that's come up in this game.
Yes, especially in
more
the
than I
single
would
plays.
think.
Yeah, there's definitely an element of negotiation and cooperation, like either like in the most recent game where you guys just kind of ended up heavily invested in the same row, whereas like, well, clearly we were both interested in making sure this row finishes, so we're not going to try and really hose each other there. Or other times when it's like 2 people are heavily invested in like, it actually is going to work. Like in my case, I don't have a company. I want everything to tank. And then Zach being like, I don't really have a strong investment anywhere, so I would actually come out better if everything tanked.
Well, no, what it was, yes, because anything of mine that would get completed would get more points for everybody else. Right. And so I know you always say you're like, no matter what in a game, you always try and get your best position.
Yes.
Like your highest points. And in this game, a lot of the times that just means everybody loses more points than you.
Yes.
That means I did better.
Yeah, once you're in a row that's only 3 people in the row and you realize you're 3rd in the row, it's actually, from a lot of my perspective, better for you to for that row to not finish, because you want them to, because it's either this much positive or this much negative.
Yep.
So if you're going to come in 3rd positive, that means you're going to come in 1st if everything goes negative. And so it creates kind of an interesting balance of like, where do I actually want this to... And then, like, it's just 1 cube away from shifting, and all of a sudden you're like, shit, now I'm in the lead on this one. I really want this row to finish.
Did we say how with the permits and stuff, you can choose not to use them?
We didn't specifically mention it, but yeah, that's another strategy. Like, if you really don't want a row to move, if you don't want it to get longer or shorter, which usually is like you don't want somebody to lengthen it, like it's a finished row, you can, when you win one of the special tiles, we'll call them.
Yeah.
You can choose to play it or discard it, which is another thing that maybe that would have been a good thing to mention in rules, because somebody else, like, they thought that, anything you win an auction on, you can choose to play or discard. And it's like, no, you won an auction on that 6 block, which gives you control of that company. And now you have to place that.
Yeah. And
there's only one spot it can go. So
it's yours.
Have your decision.
Yes.
We ended up letting them take that back, but, yeah.
And that's any of the special.
Yeah, so the mayor, the cancel, or any of the 3 building permits.
Yep. So if you wanted to, you could, first thing, you bid on is the cancel.
Yeah.
And then you're like, because I just don't want this thing in here. So whatever is out is out.
You're essentially, like, especially if you do that as the first action, you're throwing away your turn, because everybody's going to be like 0, 0, 0, 0, because there's nothing to cancel. And so then it's just going to go away. But, if you want to throw some craziness in, like getting rid of that cancel, having that not be an option, like wherever the mayor goes, that's where the mayor's going to be.
Yep.
That's something you can do. It's a really straightforward game.
Yeah.
And I think we've covered most all of it. We've talked about a lot of our discussion about our different games kind of covers a lot of the different things that can happen.
Yes. Yeah.
So they've all been quite different.
Yeah. So let's jump over into some final thoughts. Let's start with you, Hefe. What are your final thoughts on the estates?
I like it. I came out liking it a lot more than I thought I would. It's not a game that I would like the multiple session things in, but I would like it as a single session game. As much as I've called it the driest of Sahara like bare bones games. It's short enough and interesting enough with a lot of cool interaction that you would not expect from a bidding game like this that I enjoy. You get real fucky with it. I like causing the most chaos in this game as possible. Like when Leander brought out that cancel cube so early that now those permits are like there. Those are what they have, and that's it. And then I was able to put like, we got a row down to literally one building and one to like 2 or 3 buildings, which was interesting.
Yeah.
Also, that it also cut the doubler out, which meant my 60-point lead probably wasn't getting caught up to.
Yeah, you really need that doubler to get those kind of points.
Yeah. And just like every game I've played differently, because in that last series of games, I won the first round by such a commanding amount. It was riskier for me to get in the game at all than it was to just do nothing. So I just never got a corporation, and I just focused on like putting the roofs where I wanted and using the permits how I wanted.
And that was it was a 2-round game,
Yeah.
so we knew that we weren't trying to go for just total wins, just
Exactly.
total amount of money or
Yeah.
total amount of points.
Yeah. So that was just a totally different way to play the game by not playing the game, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I came out much more positive than I was expecting, and yeah, it's a good game if this is the kind of game that you like.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Zach, how about you?
Well, I know, like, I basically view it as sort of two separate games. As one is the 1-round one, and then one is the series of games. And as the series of games, like for me, it just sort of felt like a longer game of it. Except, like, I mean, there obviously it's like, oh, now I have safe points or whatever. But I never felt like I was playing that much differently. Obviously, you were, Jeff, because you were in such a big lead.
Yeah.
That you didn't want to lose it. But as someone in the middle, it's like, well, I'm still playing the same now, except
It's again.
And that makes the game longer than the 40 to 40 minutes,
yeah.
40 minutes to an hour that the game purports to be. And then for the normal one, I felt too often at the end it was just sort of I just feel like, because so many things can happen outside of your turn, and like people can put up stuff to bid that's yours, or they can put up stuff to bid that's theirs and that covers yours, that near the end I just felt it just seems like it's time to just burn everything to the ground.
I'm a fan of that as a tactic.
I mean, no, I as a tactic, yeah, but I felt like I kept just being in that position of, all right, well, now I'm not going to win, so now I just want to tank everything just to get negative points. And so the end game for that just didn't work for me. I did like it more than that first play, but I think it feels mean, but it doesn't feel personal to me. No,
You're fine. You're
No.
fine.
It doesn't feel like I like there to be a connection, to be like, all right, and I can see it in here.
Felt so personal last night.
I get
so
that.
personal.
But it's just you just do it so much to so many people that I don't know. So basically, at that length, there are other auction games I'd rather play at both lengths, basically, because I didn't feel it was deep enough for the longer time. That I'd rather even play something like Indonesia or something. But the shorter ones, Stockpile or Ponzi Scheme. So it was still a miss for me, but I don't think it's a shitty game. It's just more of like, I can see it. It just didn't work for me. So
I'd agree that I'm done playing a series as a one game. This is
yeah, I might be able to talk to that just to be like, all right. Like, the problem is that I keep trying to. It's sort of like in Twilight Imperium, where it's like I want to go in and fight, but then every time I just don't, because I'm like, oh, the game doesn't work for that. This one, it's like I want to build a company and build it up, and all right, well, that got fucked, so I'm just gonna torch I'm just gonna destroy this thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So for me,
are you sort of the opposite of Jeff?
a little bit. I feel like this game, for all three of us going through the review process, has done a little bit of a regress to the mean.
Mm-hmm.
I still really like Estates / Neue Heimat, whatever you want to call it. I really like it.
I mean, the Estates, because it's
Yeah,
the Estates.
I still really like it. I do think it's a tight auction game. I do still love auctions, but I mean, and I think some of this is also just the shift my tastes have done over the last like year and a half or so, to where I've done enough auctions that now I'm more interested in interesting auctions. And I as much as it hurts physically to say it, I agree with you, Zach. The bidding style of just once around higher or lower auction, although I do like it from I really like what you actually kind of listed as a complaint of like, man, I don't want anybody else to get this for too cheap, but I'm worried about going too high because then I'll get stuck with it. I really like that decision.
I didn't say that was a bad thing. That wasn't part of the complaint. It was just something you have to be aware of. Yeah.
I really like that decision process.
Because it was like I said, I compared it to Ponzi scheme in that way. So
yeah,
that you could be like, I'm going to do it. And then you're like, the person does something else and you're like,
oh no.
Oh no.
So I like that. I like that because it makes for a really tense decision sometimes of like, you're sitting there and it leads to a lot of moments where, say, the person immediately to my left puts up something for auction. And then Jeff bids too. And I see what they put up and I value it. And I'm like, I'm willing to pay $4 for that. And so they put it up for auction. Jeff bids too. And then Zach's like, you know what? $4. And it's like, son of a bitch.
Mm-hmm.
Like, man, I'm willing to give $4 for it, but am I willing to give $5? And then you kind of got that decision. And it's like, if it's something that you actually want, it's like, do I want it that bad? If it's something you think the person who put it up for auction wants, it's like, do they want it that bad? Like, can I go one higher and then I get paid? Or do I pass and watch Zach get paid the $4 that, and it makes for good decisions and interesting decisions, but the mechanic itself isn't an interesting mechanic.
Yeah, I think I was going to just interject once again. I think... I feel like I messaged you with this that I think I prefer like for open auctioning and then like for hidden bits. I think that works well.
Yeah.
Obviously, this game wouldn't work with that.
And that's the thing is I don't, as much as I don't, my opinions on the auction of estates has changed.
Yeah.
I don't think it would work better in either.
I agree. I agree.
I do still really like it. I like it both still as a single. I like that it legitimately, a single game will play in 40 to 45 minutes, even with new players. Like, you can teach people how to play and knock it out in that time. I like that it is a little bit player driven towards where the end is, so that like if somebody's completely hosed and they are just ready to be done, especially in a 1-round game, they can start I'm just going to start pumping roofs. I'm going to start doing everything I can to hasten the end. So there's an option for people who have fallen behind or who are feeling out of the game to kind of push it to an end, so they're not just stuck while everybody else does everything else. Within reason, if you're fucked out of money and shit, then you can't do anything. Yeah. That sucks. But plan better. I'm torn on one session versus an extended session. I think, Zach, that when we were talking about it last night after playing and then here in the review during your final thoughts, I think you make some really good points about how there are a lot of other auction games or games with auction mechanics that do other things in the same time period that I would almost rather gravitate towards. So I really like the single game. I like that it plays, like I could take it to game night. I could get in a tight, tough, mean auction game. It fits great there. The extended game, I think I've reached a point where with players who I know like that, in a situation where that's what we're doing, like we maybe meet up, like, say I haven't played it much more with Mike Jones and Kaiser, and like I haven't played it again with Paul still since Geekway. He didn't actually join us for any of our plays for the review. But like say that those 3 guys all end up really liking it. And then maybe we get together one day and we're like, all right, let's meet up. Let's do a like 3 or 4. Like I want to try one because I've only ever played to 2. I want to play a longer one, especially with the fact that if one person wins 2 rounds, they just win flat out. So you can be last in points, but if you win 2 rounds, you're the winner overall. So I want to try and play like with a group of players who really know the game. I want to play like a 4 or a 5 and just at least once just to see if something else comes out of it in that situation. I want to try it at 2. I didn't get a chance to play 2. Megan, I tried a couple times to talk her into it. she has zero interest in this game. She's just like flat no. So I want to try 2 just to see, because like my initial thought on 2 was like, oh, it's going to be a zero-sum game. But then I thought, oh, I was talking to Paul a little bit, and I was talking to somebody else, and they're in a 2-player game, you're going to know exactly how much money your opponent has because it's $12 each at the start, so you know how much money's in the game. And then it becomes like an interesting push-pull of like putting up things that they're willing to bid on that like they want in one spot, but you want in another, and how much are they willing to pay you to make sure that happens. And like that kind of back and forth. And like, I think that could be interesting. I'd like to try that. There's a lot more I want to explore with this game, but overall, I did feel like it came to a more realistic expectation from what it was.
Yeah.
It's not the sky high, like, crazy amounts of fun I had on the live stream with Heavy Cardboard, or like one of the Geekway plays I had that was really good. It is kind of stepped down a notch. I think it's a really good auction game, but maybe not the best auction game. And there's other things, but there's room to explore. And I don't know. We'll see. I'm sure this will be one that I'll hopefully be revisiting in a couple of years when we get back around to it 2 years from now, when we're still here talking about these things. I'll be like, oh yeah, I played Estates a bunch more and I've delved into it and it's fucking amazing. I found all this hidden depth, but we'll see.
By then, the streets will be paved with new board games.
I'm glad. I'm glad that you think we'll still be around in 2 years, like as a country.
Ever optimistic. ever optimistic. That wraps up final thoughts, though. So let's jump over to some listener feedback. Starting with an email from V.
Emails at milehighgameguys.com, if you say it correctly.
If you say it correctly.
Yeah, it's all on you, Zach. Or Jeff. Is it Jeff? I'm just rapidly merging you guys into one person.
We're the same person.
Zaf, yeah.
Zaf.
Hi, game guys. So 2 Wednesdays ago at Board Game Night, we played Estates. The Estates. I want to clarify for Adrian, your explanation for Estates wasn't bad. I was pretty sure the game would not be up my alley, but I've been wrong before, and since both Kaiser and Mike Jones were interested, why not give it a shot? The issue for me was that the Estates didn't have enough moving parts. I mean, you could choose a roof or a block to place on a visually unimpressive board, turn over. It used to be even more unimpressive, to be fair. I think the auction section probably makes the game more interesting for people who are comfortable with numbers and manipulating markets. Auction games just aren't my cup of tea. I think the only auction game I have enjoyed playing so far is QE, so it wasn't you, Adrian, it was me. Thanks, guys. V.
I do really like QE.
Yeah.
And it's similar, like that's what you're saying, like the blind bidding.
Yes.
Open auctions, blind bids.
Because then it's how comfortable am I doing it? Not do I feel more like, oh, you bid 4, I don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
It seems like sort of similar to how we were when we first played Jeff, of just we just buy something, put it on here, game over. But if auction games aren't your thing, then this game's not for you.
This is almost as close as you can get to a pure auction game. Pure auction parentheses bidding game. I don't know. We also had a few responses over on BGG, though. Zach, do you have those ready?
Yes, I do. First one is from Dan. I have played the older Neue Heimat several times and loved it so much that even though I own that version, I went ahead and backed the new version / reprint from Capstone Games. It's one of the best auction games you can play, and the closed economy system makes the gameplay so tight. I also love that if you played a series of games that you can keep that going over the series, which means sometimes having a long-term plan versus short-term game. Great mix of strategy and tactical choices, all in a relatively short and simple-to-learn game.
Yeah.
Much like, I got a lot of money. I guess I'm just not going to play anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also, like,
Or
you
a
lose
lot
the
of points.
short once you start playing it in a series.
Yes.
Next up.
Next up is from Scott. I really enjoy this game. I find it easy to teach the basic rules. We can begin playing quickly. The gameplay is unique each time, and the auction mechanic keeps everyone on their toes. This game is full of stabby goodness. Stabby is another word that I was like, ugh.
Really? I don't feel like anybody's ever said
I've not seen the
stabby in our
stabby.
group.
Not in our group, just online.
Oh.
When people talk about it. It's even better when played for 2 or 3 rounds.
Seems like a lot of fans of the multiple series.
Yes. And last up is from Andrew. The Estates, the game where you auction the right to do awful things to each other. I liked it enough that I bought it, but it's not a perfect game. I like the simplicity of the rules and the closed economy. The fact that the money you spend goes to an opponent adds an interesting dynamic. Yes, you may want something, but do you really want to give money to the auctioneer? Or realistically, as the auctioneer, do I want this or do I want to take money from that person instead, thus denying them any sort of ability to affect the game for a little while?
Yeah.
Cough, cough, Adrian.
Mm-hmm.
However, occasionally the game can be a dud. Players that aren't into the game overpay for items or are in unwinnable positions and decide to help their friend can make a play less fun. But thankfully, it's a short game, so a bad play isn't going to ruin your whole game day. All in all, I'd say it's a good to great game, especially considering that it plays up to 5 people in an hour. I can definitely see this game. Well, obviously, we have seen that this game can be a dud.
Oh, yeah.
Not just from our bad play, but then also your play that just don't have people there, or even like the fact that that second round, the fact that Jeff was so high up that all he had to do was just not make.
I mean, we could have realistically at that point just called it. Like
Yes.
knowing we were only willing to play 2. Like if you're willing to go 3, then somebody can do the 2 wins to beat him,
Yeah.
or maybe in 2 rounds he blows all his money defending his position in the second round and then has no money in the third.
Mm-hmm.
But then you're starting to run into the longer game that people might not have signed up for.
They're like, oh well, it only really works if you play as a 5 series game, because then, or you do 6 series. So then, like on that 6th game, if everybody, and then you're just like, look how long that game is. It's 240 minutes, man.
Yeah, I'm not going to play 4 hours of one set of estates.
Yeah,
like that. Especially because it would be possible to just get so far behind.
Exactly. Yeah.
I do like Andrew's point there, Boyd's point, that because it is a short game, even if you're planning on playing multiple sessions, if it's really clearly being a dud after one, just end it. Don't drag it out. Just end it. People are clearly checked out, not having a good time.
Yeah.
And I wish people would do that more often with games. Like, if it's clear that the energy, like even if it's your favorite game in the world, if you're playing it with people and they're not having fun, just end it and walk away. Be like, all right, it's not hitting right now. Let's walk away. Then don't force them through it to where they end up hating it, and it takes you another 1.5 years to play. Just be like, all right, we're 3 rounds in. Clearly, the chicken is affecting us. Let's just put it away. Let's do something lighthearted and silly and drink some beers and have some fun.
Yeah, let's play a deduction game.
Just walk away.
Yeah,
just walk away.
And to round out listener feedback, over on Twitter when I tweeted about the BGG thread, Ted chimed in. I'll comment. Love this game. So tight and mean in the best way possible. Short and succinct. Far less than 140 characters.
Yes.
Which is
280
now.
Yeah.
Yeah. That wraps up all the listener feedback. If you are interested in picking up the estates after hearing our review, you can find it online in a variety of places for $40 to $45. So go check that out online. Also, may be available at your local board game stores. So go check, see if you're interested in buying it. But it is available, so enjoy. That wraps up the whole shebangin' review. It's all done.
And said.
Yes.
No one has to talk about the game ever again now.
I don't know about all that. If you would like to get a hold of us, there are multiple ways to do so. You can always send us emails.
Emails at milehighgameguys.com.
You can jump over to Facebook and like our page over there, facebook.com/milehighgameguys. You can go to our website, milehighgameguys.com, for show notes, links to news, Kickstarters, all of those types of things. Slack channel, if you want to join us over there. We've got a damned active Slack, even if Boyd's complaining about it tonight, as if he doesn't know we're recording right now. You can also follow all of us on Twitter, where I tweet under @MHGameGuys.
I am Zach_MHGG.
I am Jeff_MHGG.
And finally, be sure to join the Board Game Geek Guild number 2731, where Zach does weekly episode posts for both the Banter and the Friday featured episode. So yeah, go check all of that out. Plenty of ways to get a hold of us and interact with us and all of that. Tune in next week for our normal Wednesday Banter episode and our Friday feature episode. Yeah. Rapidly coming up also on another top 10 listicle. So if you got ideas for lists you'd like to hear from us, send them to us at any of those earlier contact things.
Woo.
Until then, thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed the episode. As always, I have been your host, Adrian.
I am still Zach.
And I'm City Council Member Jeff.
Bye.
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 I've played the older, what is it? Neue
Neue Heimat.
Heimat. I've played the older Neue Heimat. Ugh. I've played the older Neue Heimat. God damn it. It's the hell. Or did he spell it right? H-E-I.
No, it's definitely now.
Okay. Okay. Okay, good. That's helmet. That's
Yes.
Heimat.
Dark Helmet.
Yes, exactly. Say it one more time.
Neue
Neue
Heimat.
Heimat. There we go.
And I would just start all the way over.
I
with
am.
This one. Okay.
This is from Dan. He says, I've played the... All right.
Practice? I'm going to go pee.
No, it's fine. I have played the older Neue Heimat. Older Neue Heimat. Not oil. Good God. Older Neue Heimat. Older Neue Heimat.
Punchboard Media,
where we all
Bring something
to the table
pull up a chair
at punchboardmedia.com.